I'm Adam Housley, and this is Bias Bash. Riots broke out on the campus of UC Berkeley last night in response to a planned speech by Breitbart News editor Milo Yiannopoulos. Now, many media outlets presented the riots as similar to the Women's March on Washington the day after President Trump took office, or the protest to his immigration executive order. But is the media missing some key context when talking about the riots? Here with his reaction is senior Washington correspondent of Talk Media News, Justin Duckham. Justin, we appreciate you coming in and talking about this. So, you know, watching that last night, obviously there were some peaceful protests going on at the very beginning of this, but noticeably, and we've seen this with a lot of the protests in recent years, including what we saw in Ferguson, including what we saw with immigration protests here in Los Angeles, there was a large group of anarchists wearing black bandanas. And it seems like that sometimes is being overlooked by many of the media outlets when this stuff takes place.
I think that's certainly true, and really my main fear with this is that we're going to start seeing the media sort of lopping this all together. We're going to be having them saying that this is just the latest step in terms of the protests that we've seen at airports, the protests that we saw the day after Trump was inaugurated, and that ultimately is going to fuel the narrative that these protests are turning violent, when really I think that this is sort of an outlier. You know, if you look at the context of this, this is Berkeley. This is a city that we used to refer to as the People's Republic of Berkeley back when I was living in California, and is just sort of a noted hotbed of a lot of this kind of protest activity. I remember going to anti-war protests in 2003, seeing a lot of these sort of similar actions. Back under the Obama administration, there was Occupy Oakland, which had a bunch of violent clashes. So basically, these people who are protesting, these professional black bloc anarchists, would quite likely have done the same exact thing, even if Hillary Clinton had won. So I just don't want this to be lumped into what we're seeing with the rest of the protests taking place all across the country.
Right. You know, watching some of this last night, both national media and also the local news media through the feeds I was watching online, you know, there weren't really a lot of people pointing out. You know, people did mention, of course, Berkeley's known for free speech. Clearly, that was not happening in the sense of Milo. But no one was really pointing out the fact that this was a very violent protest caused by people that weren't necessarily there for Milo. As you mentioned, they were going to show up no matter who was there, as long as they had a chance to basically cause mayhem.
Right, exactly. You know, from the reports that we're seeing, there were masked protesters who broke into the scene. You know, as much as there may be some elements who would like to portray this, you know, crazy idea of the college left, that just doesn't necessarily sound like the day-to-day college students that we see. This sounds like a pretty organized effort, one that we've seen pop up in Ferguson. You know, I saw a lot of these tactics taking place when I was down there back in 2014. You know, and again, these are just sort of this element who came to D.C. for the inauguration, caused a lot of trouble, and really just aren't part of the, you know, masses who are really coming out, sort of the rank and file of just day-to-day average Americans who are taking to the streets to protest, and this is being lumped in with that, which is really unfortunate.
You're right, it absolutely is, and I have seen them as well around the country in a number of protests in recent years, and it seems like it's only building. All right, senior Washington correspondent for Talk Media News, Justin Duckham, appreciate you joining us and talking about this. For more information about what's going on, anything in the world, you can go to, obviously, to foxnews.com to hear more media analysts on all this. And the week's top headlines. Catch Media Buzz with Howard Kurtz on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and again at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News Channel. For those out west, that's 8 and 2 p.m. In the meantime, I'm Adam Housley in Los Angeles. Thanks for watching Bias Bash.